Das aber hält Zhang Di und seine Freunde heute Morgen nicht davon ab, der Zeitung weiter ihre Unterstützung zu bekunden. Ich hoffe, dass Zeitungen wie Nanfang Jomo eines Tages Wahrheiten aussprechen dürfen, so wie die ausländischen Medien. Es wäre großartig, wenn sie keine Kompromisse mehr machen müssten. Ob er keine Angst habe, so offen hier zu sprechen, fragen wir ihn noch. Die Antwort: Nein, ich habe keine Angst. Das sind die letzten Worte, die wir von Zhang Di hören. Vor unseren Augen wird er sofort nach dem Interview von Mitarbeitern der Stadtsicherheit in einen schmutzigen Minibus geworfen und verschleppt. Denn es ist die Angst, mit der Chinas Kommunisten das Land regieren.
Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 3 for this news report today. And you just saw a video there, China's plainclothes police stuffed man into unmarked van for speaking to reporters. So it says here German TV was interviewing a young man in China about the newspaper censorship controversy when immediately after the interview a team of plainclothes Chinese police picked up the man like a slab of meat and threw him in the back of an unmarked van, stunning the German camera crew. The January 15th update says that posted on the ZDF website that this individual was detained for 9 hours for interrogation, then according to the interview with him, released. So thanks to the Beijing Cream's Anthony Tao for flagging the update. Tao also asked if the story could really be what it seemed. He wrote, "You have to admit it seems unlikely that they'd kidnap a citizen for giving an interview, right?" BBC Asian Bureau Chief Joe Floto responded that plainclothes officers had kidnapped people in this way several times last week. We have Aaron was killed by the government, says Robert Swartz on his son's death. The father of information activist Aaron Swartz blamed U.S. prosecutors for his son's death, says RT's Andrew Blake reports from an emotional Tuesday morning funeral outside Chicago. He was found dead on Friday of a reported suicide. Robert Swartz said during a Tuesday's service at the Central Avenue Synagogue in Highland Park, Illinois, Aaron did not commit suicide but was killed by the government. Someone who made the world a better place was pushed to death by the government. And it's like, whatever it's worth, whether he was actually assassinated or killed, murdered, or if he killed himself, he was literally pushed by this group, by this entity, to be dead. So White House to Texas, no, you can't secede. So Texas, 7 other states told they're staying in the union. Oh, isn't that nice? So the Obama regime has officially rejected a petition signed by more than 125,000 people demanding that the Lone Star State be allowed to leave the union. So similar petitions from Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee all started within a few days of Obama's re-election. So it says the White House said the founding fathers who created the U.S. did not provide a right to walk away from it. That's interesting. Because I don't exactly agree with the whole thing, like I said before, about the Constitution and forefathers. I mean, we actually did have something before that, which was not a highly centralized government that then could do what they're doing now. So that's my argument against that. It's probably a loss of freedom, the whole revolution and that. And that's what the whole Civil War was about. It was about going back to what they had before they were sold a bag of shit, a bag of bad goods, right? Called the Constitution, the Revolution, was they started taking on humongous amounts of debt, right? The Hamiltonian people. So that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to just leave that monstrosity of the centralized government. So, but the whole thing was that they were written towards the 10th Amendment, that basically if your rights and your sovereignty, state sovereignty isn't respected, that you can leave. So, but Obama's a constitutional lawyer, right? That was his degree, I guess, was constitutional law. So I guess he knows about it, knows more about it, right? Russians' nostalgia for USSR is dwindling, says a poll. Some 56% of Russians still regret the dissolution of the Soviet Union, according to a poll on the 90th anniversary. This is almost 10% less than a decade ago. A third of Russians do not mourn over the collapse of the Soviet Union 21 years ago. That's a 6% more than in 2000. In Mexico, we have armed civilians patrol 2 towns in southwest. Several hundred civilians have taken up arms in 2 towns in southwestern Mexico state and are arresting people suspected of crimes and imposing a curfew, leading authorities to promise to reinforce security forces in the area. So people wearing ski masks and bandanas and carrying small arms this week began manning checkpoints on the road to municipalities. So it says here that the man in the ski mask at one roadblock told reporters that townspeople had to act against criminals. They kill, extort, rape. You don't know if they are drug dealers, thugs who want to grab everything, right? Yeah, it's right. You can't tell whether they're just plain clothes civilians or they're actually the government. See, sometimes you'll have government that are in clothes and costumes and they're actually dealing drugs and they're thugs and they want to grab everything. Sometimes they're in plain clothes doing the same thing. He says he wants to return peace and tranquility to the entire population and only the people can restore order. Residents in Arizona town feel invaded by border control. Many locals in and around Bisbee say agents and new security infrastructure have created a military-like occupation in their once sleepy, basically, town. So it says here that longtime locals say that they damage irrigation lines, tread on land without permission, alienate merchants, and contribute to a sense of unease that didn't used to exist. But lately, these complaints are aimed not so much at the people arriving illegally from Mexico, which has gone down, as they are as the federal forces that are sent to stop them. It says, who are we keeping out? Are we keeping us in? See, that's the thing. Border control. That's a point that I don't think I've ever made, but I've always thought, which is not just about keeping people out, it's about keeping people in. They joke about it in the South Park episode, but there's probably some truth to that. Private pilot nearly shot down for violating secret no-fly zone. So it goes on here and says, last July, Small Wars Journal published an essay co-written by retired U.S. Army Colonel titled Full Spectrum Operations in the Homeland, A Vision of the Future. The article presented a speculative case study of domestic military ops to put down domestic insurrection that would seize control of unremarkable town, Darlington, South Carolina. I remember that. They impose martial law or form of martial law, and citizens who complain are immediately detained. So this Fleming, this individual, believed belonged to an aviation club in South Carolina, went for an afternoon glider flight in July. Basically, I guess he had come up missing. They followed the missing aircraft report, and it says here it left him horrified when they learned what had happened. So he passed over a power plant. He was ordered to land his glider, which he did as soon as prevailing winds currents permitted. Once he was down on the ground, Fleming was sworn by law enforcement. They said he had violated a secret no-fly zone. So there was no such thing as a domestic no-fly zone, secret or otherwise. It was used to describe aerial blockades imposed by the military, generally under purported authority of multilateral bodies such as the United Nations or one of its regional affiliates against a rogue nation. Charges were dismissed after he showed that the zone wasn't marked in aviation charts, but he was required to sign a document promising that he wouldn't file a lawsuit against the officials who had legally detained him. So he was handcuffed, charged with breach of peace, and held for more than 24 hours after being interrogated by FBI and Homeland Security. Fleming later learned that local police officers had made preparations to shoot down his glider if he hadn't landed as quickly as he did. 5 chilling new ways police violate your rights. Using Homeland Security cash, departments are stocking up on creepy technologies like high-voltage handcuffs. So, of course, that's number one, shock cuffs. It's capable of delivering high-voltage, low-amperage shocks to disrupt a person's voluntary nervous system, much like tasers. Rapid DNA analysis. Future policing will be cops' ability to collect biometric data in the field. So, yeah, pretty interesting. Called rapid DNA analysis. We covered that. About the size of a laser printer's ability to collect, analyze, and catalog your DNA on site in 90 minutes. Mobile fingerprinting. Police across the country have become enamored with these smartphone-sized fingerprint scanners. They can scan 2 fingers of the suspect and transmit the data via Bluetooth to the officer's laptop in the cruiser. And, of course, it checks it on a database. Of course, you have iris scans basically everywhere now. And then you have license plate recognition. And let's see the last one. And another story of New York PD looking into drones to survey crowds. Of course, looking into, in quotes, because there's a good chance that they probably already have one. Also, NYPD to plant GPS chips in pill bottles as part of their campaign against black market, i.e. the free market for prescription narcotics. The NYPD will today announce a plan to hide GPS tracking chips in bait bottles to be placed on pharmacy storage shelves. So you can go in there and check it out. Links will be posted. I'm going to keep moving fast here. Still got some more news to get to. Minority Report has arrived. Maryland and Pennsylvania are using computers to predict future crimes. The parole officers are using software to decide level of supervision for ex-inmates. Of course, using algorithms just like they use on the masses to detect where they're going to go, how they're going to react to certain policies and stuff like that. They have algorithms to predict who's going to commit a crime. So it says here, when police and Minority Report predicted who would commit crimes and stop them before they did it, it was considered so futuristic. The film was set in 2054. Now, however, law enforcers in 2 American states are using crime prediction software to predict which freed prisoners are most likely to commit murder and supervising them accordingly. So it says here that it's already being used in Baltimore and Philadelphia and will be extended to Washington, D.C. North Korea steps up surveillance of citizens with 16,000 CCTV cameras. Purchased 16,000 of these cameras from China in the first 11 months of last year as they stepped up monitoring of its own people. So it's kind of interesting because, you had Google's head over there just recently. Can't recall his name right now, but yeah, all about surveillance. He was there. And this is coming from the Telegraph, which is in London, which has one of the biggest surveillance, Big Brother state in existence in the world. So,
Microsoft wants to put players in their video games. The Illumi Room uses an Xbox Kinect to take images off a TV and project them onto the walls surrounding the person playing. Microsoft isn't saying when the system will go on sale or how much it'll cost.
One, it's all about criminal access. It's not about gun control, it's about criminal access to guns. That changes the debate. 2, put the police chief and the law enforcement community front and center. Everybody else, from politician to whatever, take a back seat. Because the police chiefs have a credibility and authority and a voice on this, which is why they're all there.
So leave it up to the revenue collectors, the political law enforcers, everybody else, lobby groups, activists, in this quote democracy. You take a back seat. Remember this, Chicago police chief will shoot licensed civilians with guns from January 9th. So that's pretty interesting. Go in there and check that out. Followed by, in Chicago, after 19 years behind bars, man sues Chicago police for framing him. So they bribed the court witnesses to go along with their story after he was framed. And we also have New York State passes nation's toughest gun law, tightens rules on assault weapons and mentally ill. So it goes on here, it says that assault weapons, you'll be allowed to carry your weapons or keep them, but you'll have a year to register them with police. Well, if you get a background check, which is required, you're already registering them with the political law enforcement officers. So this is, I guess the biggest thing is mentally ill. Therapists, doctors, and other mental health eugenicists will be required to tell the state, the almighty state authorities, if a patient threatens to use a gun illegally. That could be anything, right? Like Rahm Emanuel talking about criminals, get in the hands of criminals. So anybody they deem a dissenter, right? The patient's weapon could then be taken away. So I mentioned in yesterday's video, and when I said it's a privilege, I don't mean that it should be a privilege. It should be a right. It should be your inherent right to carry a stick and use it and defend yourself, or a spear or whatever. There shouldn't be any of these stipulations and screenings and all that crap. We're not a big hunky-dory society. We live in a scientific dictatorship where it's dog eat dog. And once that grid goes out and the lights go out, people will start eating each other like freaking animals. We'll see how civilized we are. Bigger database, more comprehensive database of people barred from owning guns will be created. Chuck Schumer asked businesses to stop selling guns while Congress debates. See that, the illusion of debate, right? But actually many retailers have stopped selling these semi-automatic rifles and handguns because they're completely out of stock. So they're doing exactly what they're doing, is supporting the military-industrial complex. Organizers shocked as 10,000 attend a gun show, and a huge turnout. People say that we got to get them now before they take them away, because Obama wants to take away our guns. So they're down here buying ammo, buying guns, and getting ready for the next revolution. Revolution, remember. Obama's not disarming the American citizens before the next revolution. They're arming. Obama's arming the Patriots for the next engineered, planned revolution. Gun sales soar in U.S. amid fear of tougher laws. That's right. People are stockpiling arsenals. And then we have a school board approves carrying of handguns by custodial staff. So the Board of Re-Education and Indoctrination has approved the carrying of handguns by its custodial staff, I guess janitors. And then you have in Texas, teachers receive training on how to disarm a gunman, prepare themselves for a grim reality of workplace and school shootings. That's how it is, the new normal. Training teachers to tackle gunmen. So, and they don't address real societal issues, just how to put a Band-Aid on it, right? That's how they, that's why how they do it with medical complex. Don't treat the cause, the disease, treat the symptoms. Ron Paul says guns are Americans, line in the sand. CEO loses gun permit over plan to start killing people if gun control laws are passed. That's the line in the sand. So he lost his gun rights, his privileges. Rand Paul just came back from Israel, accuses Obama of acting like a king. Decree by king. There are some steps that we can take that don't require legislation. The king. Engineered revolution. Thank you.